Hello and welcome to Scale by Design. I'm here today with Lio Slama. Lio, welcome. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm great. How are you?
Good, doing well, man. So before we jump into everything, could you just share with everybody a little bit about yourself and what you're up to these days?
Yeah, sure. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I grew up in France. That's where my accent is from. People can never figure this out. I used to be an architect for buildings. I was the head architect for the International Labor Organization in Switzerland. It was a $300 million project. So I was managing the entire design and engineering. And I'm a painter as well. I do a lot of abstract expressionism. And I'm a tech entrepreneur, as I said. So I design software and then scale them. And I got to realize a few years ago that whether it's through a building, a painting, or software, what I'm really interested in is designing amazing experiences for people. That's it. That's me.
That's really cool. So by the way, where can we, if I wanted to see your artwork, where could I see your paintings?
I actually have an Instagram
really
account just for art. It's at Ary, ARY, New York,
right.
NEWYORK. So you can
Nice.
find me on Instagram.
All right, man. I'll definitely check that out. Really cool stuff. And so how with AskNeo, how long have you been in this business?
So we started about 2 years ago. We launched on Product Hunt. We got to #1 on Product Hunt, and it crashed the system because there were just way too many companies signing up at once. It was just an MVP back in the day. So you have to. We always say when you launch something, you have to be ashamed of your launch. Otherwise, it's too perfect, and of course, it doesn't work. So we were really ashamed. So very happy with that, and yeah. So since then, we really built a robust and scalable solution, and we really grew significantly with our early adopters. But yeah, that's how we launched.
So when you did the MVP, was that like you were still kind of bootstrapped at that point in time? So that was prior to fundraising, or was that after fundraising?
Yeah, actually, we pivoted from another company. So we fundraised before. We did Techstars in New York City before, right before the pandemic. And back in the day, before the pandemic, before the pivot, it was called Square Plan, and it was a property management tool for office space. And we lost all of our traction overnight because of COVID, because office space went to shit, as you know.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, we need to pivot. A lot of my mentors were like, no, wait a few months, by July of 2020, everything will be back to normal. And I was like, well, if you look at the data from 1918 or 1958, it takes at least 2 years to get back to normal. And so I decided to pivot, and it takes time to pivot, but we were very successful in the pivot. As I said, it crashed the system. And so we raised money before and after, raised money also last year.
That's awesome. And I actually have a similar story. So I had started my company 7 years ago. But around the time of the pandemic, we completely overhauled. We used that as an opportunity to overhaul like the entire business model. So we used to do like contingent placement for so basically success fee stuff. Like if somebody took a candidate from us, they'd pay us a fee. And then we switched over to a recurring revenue model, which was subscription based, which was a total game changer in terms of allowing us to start scaling. So I honestly kind of consider this my second startup, even though it's the same one. It's kind of a different, it's like been a different company for the last 18 months, 2 years.
That's really amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. I think COVID, the pandemic, of course, it brought us a lot of shit, but a lot of good things too. And a lot of companies had to evolve.
Yeah, dude, it was total shit. Like for us as a hiring company, we lost like 80-90% of our fucking revenue in like 3 weeks.
Wow.
It was just devastating. Yeah.
We had back in the day, we had a few skyscrapers in New York City. It started to really look good for us, and super excited, And overnight, bro, like boom, no one, zero.
Crushes your dreams. For a little bit. But yeah, so anyway, so what exactly does your product do?
Yeah, so we launched AskNeo. We call the company AskNeo because if you remember the Matrix, Neo helps humans literally disconnect from the fake world of the Matrix and reconnect human to human. And that's exactly what we do. We help consumer brands reconnect with their customers, human to human. And there are two problems we're solving. The first problem is people, especially sales and marketing people, have no fucking clue how to be human anymore. They just don't know. Yeah. They might use bots, but they are bots themselves. They act like robots. They just apply the same stupid recipe that they learned because they don't know any better, and they just spam people. Like we all fed up with getting spammed by email, text message, or LinkedIn message. Like it has to stop now. It has to stop. And the second problem we're solving that we discovered actually by launching AskNeo is most companies still work in silos because the software, the solutions they use are good for one particular thing: sales, marketing, retargeting, customer success, customer support, you name it. So each team, each staff member work in silo with their own software. Mm-hmm. And so with AskNeo, we solve those two problems. We help those brands personalize every interaction at scale. No more spam. By design, with AskNeo, you cannot spam. You always have to be relevant. And the most important is all those staff, teams, and even consultants can collaborate on conversation thread with customer during the entire customer life cycle. And that's a paradigm shift. That's a game changer. I don't know if you saw Adobe buying Figma, I think 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, huge valuation, it was announced. Right?
Yeah, but like that's, I use Adobe I've used Adobe for 20 years. And they try to move to the cloud, Adobe Cloud. And no offense to them, but it's shit. I pay for it, okay? I'm a customer. It's pure shit because you cannot collaborate in real time with your team. It doesn't happen. So they try hard, but they cannot. It's a paradigm shift and their software is not built for that. So they had to buy Figma. Figma does that. And this trend started probably with like Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets. Same paradigm shift towards collaborative stuff and more collaboration between teams. So at AskNeo, that's what we do. We help teams, internal teams and external consultants collaborate on customer conversations at scale. And so the result of that is an increase in repeat sales, business continuity. Like it's just insane, the benefits that they get from it.
So it's like end-to-end experience, and it helps like different departments communicate and kind of pick up where one left off, and then eliminating like kind of spam or mass marketing efforts. So there has to be like salespeople or customer success people on the other end, right? Personalizing, right?
Yeah, when brands sign up, they start by doing marketing and sales with AskNeo. So basically they can send a mass marketing message that's personalized with like the first name of people and also their preferences by texting. We focus on SMS to get started. That's how we started actually, SMS. But we're the only one that translate the mass personalized marketing message into one-on-one conversations. And I know that because the people who switch to AskNeo, they're like, this is insane. Like we've never seen that before. And I'm like, what do you mean? And, we build AskNeo with our customers. I don't look at the competitors. I know who they are or what they do, but I really build that with our early adopters and customers. And so what it does is that, the marketing team sends a very relevant, segmented and personalized message to say 20,000 people. And then it instantly translates into one-on-one deals 20,000 times. And so the sales team after that, or the front desk, like whatever company they use as using AskNeo, they close deals like, I don't know, they might take like 2-3 days with their entire team, but they make hundreds of thousands of dollars in just a few days. And that's unheard of. That's the value prop there.
And this really hasn't been done before. It just seems like it's a great concept, and it's never really been done like this.
No, never done like this. We were surprised ourselves, but as I say, we built the product and the company with the customers. Okay. So we just listen to what they need and what they do. We observed as well. And then after that, the customer success, customer support team, is on the platform as well. Again, there's one conversation thread per customer. So you don't have to look for like what happened before, or everything is there
Right.
with different roles, different, and that's a game changer for those teams, basically.
Yeah, for sure. And this, like, is it primarily targeting enterprise or mid-market or SMB? Like, what's the focus?
You know, when we launched on Product Hunt, we got mostly SMBs,
Yeah.
a lot of e-commerce and retail companies, mostly consumer brands, but we got more and more like financial services or lawyers or like SMBs that, you know, and now we're actually working with larger and larger companies. So they might put like 10, 15, 20 people on the platform. They might have a few hundred employees, but they put like their sales, marketing, and customer success teams. Some people are starting to use it for HR, human resources as well,
Oh, wow.
which is really interesting, actually. Yeah.
Oh, like
But
employee
yes,
life cycle, or
and yeah, so there is an issue with consumer brands is that, especially for salespeople or sales reps, is that there's a big turnover. Like they stay 1-2 years and then they leave. So there are two problems. They don't want the employee to leave with the portfolio of consumers, like phone numbers, name, etc. So that's why we have different roles on AskNeo, so they can do that. But then there's business continuity on the platform. Anyone can take over the conversation, reassign the conversation to another team or another staff in just 2 seconds. So yeah, a lot of SMBs, and now we have more and more enterprise reaching out to us because they need our solution. They've been working with, I don't know, 20 different systems, and their teams and staff and departments and consultants are all working in silos. Everybody is spamming everybody else. It's a shit show out there. And those legacy brands, or there are like a lot of consumer brands like cosmetics or clothing, or they know that if they don't evolve now, they're gonna die, or they're gonna go to bankruptcy, like Toys R Us, for example. So they have to evolve, and evolving is understanding that happy teams make happy customers,
right.
make more repeat sales. So you have to take care of your teams and your staff. They have to be happy. They have to have better tools to collaborate and track customer engagement. That makes happy customers. Customers are getting pissed if they have to, call another department or be bounced around between different channels. Like every time I need something from a brand, it's never the right channel. It's never the right time. It's never the right person. Call back tomorrow. Or you have to contact sales. Or it's like, why are you doing this? Because you don't have the tools, or you have 20 tools,
Yeah.
so that's why we're solving for them.
Nothing's talking to you. Yeah, that's a really great idea. And so it sounds like right now, and I don't know how much we want to talk about this, so just like cut me off if it's too detailed, but it sounds like you're growing. It sounds like you're ready to kind of take the next step in the business. So whatever you feel comfortable sharing with us, like what are you working on right now?
Yeah, that's correct. Very busy. We're working on everything at the same time. We're adding more features and more layers to those collaborative tools. We have a ton of automation tools as well for them. Second thing is I am starting to interview potential key hires, because right now it's mostly my co-founder and myself and a few more people. But we need to hire at some point a CMO, a CFO, and we're producing more and more content ourselves. So I have a team for content as well, but I need more people. And so the third element is fundraising. I don't want to take like too much time to fundraise. Sometimes it can take like, I don't know, 6 months or more, and you just do that because there's too much demand right now. We have brands texting AskNeo every day. They have to text Neo to our phone number to get a trial or a demo. But the truth is, there's so many people texting, like we just put a lot of them on a wait list. And so we'll get back to them as soon as possible. But yeah, that's what we're working on.
That's really cool. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about fundraising, because I think you did an initial seed raise. Is that right?
Yeah, we did pre-seed with some angels and Techstars.
Okay, cool. So can we talk a little bit about how you went about doing that? Like, how did you just maybe some advice to early stage entrepreneurs that are thinking about going through the fundraising? Like, that'd be really cool to slow down on that for a minute.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the first round is usually friends and family. For us, we did the first round. Some were friends and family, but half of the angels were professional angels. So they invest in, I don't know, 5 to 10 companies a year. They invested in like 50 companies or 60 companies so far. And so they're a little more sophisticated investors. So we had a few of them as well. And we did Techstars New York City. So they invested as well. And I highly encourage people to do an accelerator. There are so many accelerators nowadays. It's very helpful. They give you money, but money is one thing. It's smart money from the start is really, really important. So
Yeah.
an accelerator can help tremendously. And then
do they help with distribution too? Like, did you get any helpful introductions to customers or anything like that? Or was it more so to advisors? Like, what was the, like, beyond obviously the money, like what was the biggest, I don't know, benefit Techstars?
Yeah, it really depends on your stage and also what you're looking for. So it's always like when you apply to universities or like a master's degree, not college, like master's degree or even a PhD. Like it's you need to meet with the professors before. You need to make sure like the program corresponds to you. That's kind of the same here. You need to talk before to see if it really corresponds to you and what type of help they can give you. So yeah, they can help about anything like advising, intros to investors or customers, or but really the biggest part is the mentorship. So mentorship is key. Again, whatever you need. If you need mentorship for a go-to-market or financial planning or whatever you need, they have a huge network of people that can help you. And I think what helped us a lot for us is not just the program itself, because it lasts 3 months. It's the network afterwards. Like I'm regularly actually reaching out to potential advisors or mentors if I need help with something. And as you grow, because you're growing, your startup, you're growing, you potentially need different people at different stages. So yeah, the mentorship is the biggest part.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's huge. I ran into like a new type of accelerator. I found really interesting. I'm trying to figure out. I think it was called Newchip. Have you heard of them?
I knew you would say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They hit us up. Okay, so do you know their model?
Remind me the model.
Yeah, just for everybody listening too. Like, so they actually don't take equity. It's like you pay a certain amount of cash, like not a ton of money, into the program, and then they basically give you access to their advisors, and they say like distribution, right? Like making introductions to people that will become customers. And then basically when you're ready to raise money, I don't know if it's like right of first refusal, or basically they have the opportunity to buy in with the other investor. So they're not actually taking equity at first. They're just, when you do raise,
so wait,
let
me be clear. So you have to pay them?
Yeah, you have to pay. I mean, not a ton of money, but like you have to pay them like some kind of fee to be part of the community.
Like how
and
much?
Then I don't know if I want they might be changing their price, but it's like low 5 figures, right?
Yeah, that's not an accelerator.
Yeah.
That's a consultancy business. Nothing against them. I don't know them. No, I don't think that's what
but
it
even
is.
like if they're basically saying they have the right to buy into the first fundraising round, that's still not an accelerator. I don't know. I don't know.
An accelerator gives you money and help you and is on your side.
Right.
I tell you that because Techstars, the mantra there is give first. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And give first, it's not just like give money first or whatever. It's give first. It's like they mentor you, like and so I'm a mentor at the Columbia Startup Lab. I don't get paid for that, of course. And I give some of my time to help younger entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who are earlier in the journey. They're not necessarily younger, actually. in their journey, because I made a lot of mistakes at the beginning. And so I try to help them not make the same mistakes, and also help them in their pitch and narrative, etc. But like an accelerator or an incubator, they might take equity, but they give
Right.
you something. You don't pay money. So if you pay money, it sounds like a consultancy business. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there like, and I know it probably varies, but like how much equity, like, is there like a range of equity that an accelerator takes typically? Like a
Techstars takes 6%. I think YC takes also 6 or 7%.
okay,
But yeah, there's always a range. It's always between, like, I would say 2 and 10%, depending on
right.
the accelerator. Yeah.
And is that like is it like similar to fundraising from a VC in that you do kind of like your pitch and if they like it, they'll do it, or what's that process look like?
Yes and no. Again, it's highly personal.
Okay.
So for us, when we got accepted to Techstars, the managing director was Jenny Fielding in New York City. And we met actually 2 different managing directors, one in Seattle and one in New York City. And we just showed our MVP. But we had different discussions about what we wanted to do and what we needed. And back in the day, we had an MVP, but we were pre-revenue, and we were probably one of the only companies that got accepted pre-revenue.
Nice.
Yeah, so we learned a lot for sure.
I can tell by your face. You're like information overload. That's awesome.
Yeah. Like usually you start to realize, or that just like it can take months. For us, it took us years probably after the program. But I think it depends. But it's highly personal. Like, and I think VC funding as well, especially before Series A, it's highly personal anyway. They believe in you or not.
Right.
Of course, they have to have some sort of overlap with the market, or the product you're building. But it's always highly personal.
Yeah, I mean, it's like primarily betting on the entrepreneur, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's just, I have a buddy of mine's a VC, managing partner at a smaller VC, and that's basically what he's saying. He's like he wants to know about the entrepreneur, and then he also wants to understand like what's the entrepreneur's vision of the future, and why is that founder well positioned to thrive in that future, right?
Yeah.
And then also just general market trends, like is the greater economy kind of moving in that direction? Like, do they believe in that future too,
Yeah, and also, at pre-Series A, like, are the founders or the co-founding team, are they resilient? And so, I was slightly, not ashamed, but slightly shy of having pivoted during COVID, because you have to do everything almost from scratch again. And
yeah.
But I noticed something is like, some investors I'm talking to now, they ask you like, okay, so how did you get started? And I tell them like, we pivoted from another company. When they hear that, usually they want to know more, and they're happy to hear that, because what really happened during COVID is that my co-founder was not my co-founder. He was just the CTO of the company, but he decided to stay with me and help me pivot. And after a product turn and after the successful pivot, it was like, that the job I'm doing here is not the job of an employee, it's the job of a co-founder. So I'd love to be a co-founder. And I remember I was like, well, that's about time you ask,
Yeah.
But investors are looking at this stage, and they're right, they're looking for resilient people. Are you going to stop what you're doing if there is an issue or a problem, or are you going to continue, and how? And at the beginning and always, probably there are ups and downs. And before Series A, like, it's very easy to stop, no much responsibility, no much investment. And so when you start seeing what you really need to do, when you start encountering challenges, whether it's out of your control or not, can you deal with it? And can you deal with it on the long term? and can you deal with it on the long term with your team, and how? And so that's what I noticed, like pre-Series A investors, or maybe later as well, it's very personal, but beyond the market, beyond the product or the traction or the product market fit, which is important, is who are those people? Are they resilient, or are they just exploring ideas and playing with money? So
Yeah,
that's probably the most important at the beginning.
I'm actually trying to look something up. So let me just see here. I know, dude, there's so many founders that like failed their first company, or
Yeah.
like went through a similar motion to that, where there's a big pivot. Yeah, okay, this is like, so these are some of the same. I would have to look it up, but there's a list of, like, if you Google, like, you know, successful entrepreneurs where like their first venture was a total fuck up, and then they basically started a company, another one, and it was a huge success. Like, for instance, I know a guy that I recently spoke with that, like, basically his first two companies failed, and then the third one he blew up and sold for like mid what is it, 7, 8, 9 figures, right? And he built it in like a few years, right?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, that's the thing. I think sometimes like you can turn those experiences into a positive, because as long as you can articulate what happened and then what you learned, it's like seen as a plus, right? It's like, because you can have the confidence in your skill set now, but also the humility to know that like it is possible to fail, right? And you've learned from that situation. So I typically, like, I'm not fundraising, but I typically, when I'm making high level connections with people that, you know, have scaled like $1 billion company or whatever it might be, and I tell that story, it's usually not frowned upon. It's usually like, people are like, tell me more, as you said, like, tell me more about that. Oh, that's cool. Like, you know, they love that, right? At least from my experience, like, I don't think it's seen as a negative at all.
No, it's not. It's funny because when we launched AskNeo, we did in 3 months what took us 3 years with the previous company
Yep.
to do, for real. Like, because I knew what to do, so I rebuilt a brand with a good name and a good brand, but like, after we pivoted, like 3 months, in 3 months we started having more customers than what we had before, and then that's why you have to be resilient, but you also have to be pivoting or changing, or you have to, you know, we always say you have to be coachable. Yes, but you have to be coachable with yourself as well. If, you know, you have to look at the data, you have to look at what customers are saying. So it's coming from every side at you, but you have to do something good about it.
Yeah, man. I have always said the same thing too. Like, I feel like I could build my business to where it is today, in like, I don't know, 6 months to a year, right? Like, and get it back to where, just with my experience at this point.
Yeah.
Because I know the playbook. Like, I've already gone through the motions. I know it works. I know it doesn't work. And for the shit that I didn't know it to work, like, I know how to pick good advisors now. I've been able to surround myself with people that are who I want to become. And I've been able to develop good relationships with them. And I've also realized, like, the fastest path to scale is like, let's say if one of those advisors isn't your friend, that's just like helping out, right? Like, I've reached out to, I handpick people. Like, if I see somebody that's like, I want that skill set, I want that exact person, I will pay them a ridiculous amount of money per hour in order to get them on my advisory team. Like, I don't give a shit what it's gonna, like, if I can afford it, I'm gonna do it. And a lot of people are just like, oh my God, why would you spend like, you know, over $1,000 an hour or whatever, you know, to talk? Because I can save 20 fucking years. I can talk to somebody who's been doing this for 20 years, and specialize in this one area, and it's gonna drastically accelerate my scale. Like, why am I gonna waste my time, you know, trying to figure this stuff out when there's people that are way better at it, that have already solved this puzzle, right? Like, I don't need to solve this puzzle. I just have to find the people who have solved it. And to the extent that I can develop those relationships with advisors, with potential customers, and really just be the relationship person that's pulling in the people, I don't really need to do anything else.
That's
Like,
the real power of accelerators. Like, you don't have to pay. You can
yeah,
just you have to find a good accelerator, and
right.
not necessarily easy, but then you can ask for mentorship, or you're part of like a network, basically.
Yeah, it's a different motion. Like, so for me though, I'm a services company, so we've had to be profitable since day one. So it's like,
Yeah.
For me, it's like, it's either way you pay, right? Like, you're either paying with equity or you pay with cash, right? Like, to some extent, right? For us, like, our business model, I would get a terrible valuation at this point. Like, we'd have to achieve like much more significant scale in order to get
That's
like
different.
great valuation. So it's like, it makes a lot more sense for us to try to pay up because we're profitable. If I can maintain, for me, if I can maintain triple digit growth year over year, then I can start to get some pretty cool multiples. So we've been doing that for the past year or two, I guess close to 2 years at this point. But yeah, if I can put together another few years, which we'll see in this market, but if I can do that a few more times, then like that starts to be a really compelling story, and I can start thinking about like doing that play. But it's just obviously like our gross margin is way different than a software company,
Yeah.
and that's
No,
like
that's for
net
sure.
retention and all that kind of stuff is way different.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are like the core metrics that you're like, are you getting to the point where you're tracking core metrics when it comes to like customers and growth and like retention and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, you always tracking core metrics. It's just that it evolves over time.
Yeah.
So we are tracking probably way too many KPIs at this stage, but it's a lot about engagement and usage KPIs. And what's great and what's important is that the customers are using it more and more. The more they use AskNeo, the more they want to use it. And so that's what we've been seeing over time, and that's the most important. What I'm tracking as well is the churn rate. So we got to a 0% churn rate
Nice.
because we know exactly which type of customer and persona we can onboard now. And there's always like, I don't know, certain types of companies, for example, that are in Europe or the Middle East. We're not going to onboard them now because we're not ready for that. We're focusing on the US and Canada. That's just one example.
It's already a huge market anyway. Like,
yes, it
plenty of
is.
companies, like,
Yeah. So yeah, the KPIs are evolving over time, and yeah, every time you evolve, then you change the KPIs you're tracking, basically.
yeah. Yeah, we're tracking like very similar things. So what are we tracking? I'm really big into trend reports. So I look at like revenue kind of, I don't know, better word for this, but like revenue acceleration. Like, are we closing more deals quarter over quarter than the previous quarter? So we look at stuff like that with trends, obviously like revenue trends, gross margins trends, operating income trends. We have targets, but we're also tracking, like, are we moving the right, like cash flow trends? Like, we're trying to check all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, it's funny. Like for a SaaS like us, for a tech company like us, at this stage, it's mostly about engagement and usage. And it's like, okay, this type of company are using it more and more. They use it, I don't know, every 37 seconds, which is huge. And so the market for this type of company is, I don't know, $10 billion or whatever. So, by getting 2% of this market, we can make this amount of money. So that's how we calculate the potential revenue we can get within the next few years. And that's why usage and engagement over time is so important and is so critical at this stage.
For sure. And you can attach targets to that, right? Like, once you have enough data, you can say like, all right, this is our ideal engagement rate or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah. It's funny because for us, we have two types of companies. They're always B2C or D2C, but there are companies that use it like they would send a big personalized broadcast once in a while, like once a week, for example, and they would get a ton of answers like the same day. Okay. So that's what they do. Marketing offers and sales and then customer support. But then there are other companies, different types of companies that have to engage with their audience every minute. For example, we have some mental health or wellness companies or coaching companies, and people are texting the brand, like the patients or the end user or the person being coached. Like they have thousands of customers. Like I look on the logs, I can see the logs. Every few seconds, there is a message coming in or out. And so that's a different type of usage.
You kind of have to segment it based on the use case.
Exactly. And so we have those two types of usage. And it's funny because they both pay similar amounts of money. It's just the way of using AskNeo is different.
That's cool. Does that make it more complicated to scale, like having two different, like drastically different use? Maybe it's not drastically different, but like,
no, actually,
about getting more siloed where it's like, all right, we're only going to work with this type of use case or something.
It's funny because at the beginning, that's what some mentors were saying, like get more siloed, etc. And we decided to do the contrary, because what they do with AskNeo is the exact same thing. They communicate personally with their audience, and they collaborate between teams and staff. And remember that the collaboration tools are the most important here. That's probably our biggest competitive advantage. We have a brand avatar as well. We're the only company that saves information automatically through texting from a bot. So you can ask people for their name, phone number, whatever you need. It saves the information automatically into the CRM. But that's interesting because whether you use it like once a week for a big broadcast or every couple of seconds, it's the same use case. You are collaborating with your team, communicating with a large audience. And there's no software today that does that well. If you look at Zendesk, they do that well for customer support. But that's it. That's just customer support. If you look at Salesforce, it's great for sales teams, right? It's just great for sales. If you look at, MailChimp, for example, that's great for marketing. And so instead of getting siloed anymore, we help those teams collaborate on customer conversation, as I said, whether the customer is a patient for healthcare, or it's an e-commerce customer who wants to buy a t-shirt. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Hey, what tech are you using to track engagement and usage? Like, is it just a specific, like, are there any recommendations you make there?
It's funny because I tried to hire some data scientist interns for some time.
Yeah.
Because I thought they would build like an amazing, not necessarily a dashboard, but like an amazing stack to track all the KPIs we need in real time. And I learned that data scientists at school, what they learned is to play with data, that, they give like sets of huge data, big data, and they play with it. But they don't learn how to build a data engine or, so there's probably Tableau for that, or, other software, but you still have to build it yourself. You still have to link everything together. So at this stage, things are evolving so fast that I don't think it's really good for us to use like Tableau or something like that. So we use AskNeo actually for ourselves. We eat our own dog food, so we track people there. It's the best tool to centralize all the conversations for prospects, customers, repeat customers, and potential investors as well, and also segment them and collaborate with like the team, even if the team is small right now. Sure. We use Google Sheets, simply Google Sheets, and we use other tools. I'm not going to reveal the entire stack, but we use other tools to track the money, for example, or this type of stuff. But having everything in one dashboard, maybe you can do that with Tableau, but it depends on your stage.
Yeah, I think like the companies that are using like Tableau or like the robust data tools, like they have a team of data scientists that are actually like working alongside function leaders, right? Like, like since we're in talent acquisition, like we know some bigger companies that have Greenhouse integrated with Tableau, and they have a team of data scientists, sometimes even reporting into talent acquisition, that are supporting that specific org. So that's when you can really start to do some really cool stuff. You know, like
Yeah.
I can't wait till we have that level of scale. Like I would love to do that. I mean, I don't know if we will. Like we're gonna have to make sure that the ROI makes sense, but I love playing with data and running those types of things and running turn reports. It's really cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good way to
Uh,
optimize. Yeah.
Data is key. I remember when we looked at the amount of staff members per account for AskNeo, and we noticed that it was way higher than we thought. We felt a bit stupid. We're like, oh, people are coming for the collaborative tool, for the shared inbox. And then when I started asking people, how did you find us? It was all by SEO organically because of the collaborative tools or shared inbox. And so it was like, oh, okay, it makes sense now. All right.
That's really
I
cool.
think we got it now. Yeah.
Nice.
But it's all about data. If you don't look at the data, or you don't have a way to see the data, like you don't know what you don't know.
You're gonna end up making assumptions that are not accurate, right?
Yeah.
So, well, really cool, man. We're coming up on time here. I really enjoyed talking with you and learning more about your business and what you're building. So I'm really excited to see your company scale. And you're definitely gonna have to come back on, man, and let us know how you're doing as you guys continue to grow. So just want to say thank you for coming on the show and joining me today.
Sounds good. Thanks for inviting me.
For sure. And hey, if people want to engage with you, your company or you specifically online, what's the best way to get in touch?
So if they are curious about using AskNeo, like they are consumer brands or whatever brand, they can text Neo and EO to 917-451-5515. That's our phone number. And if they are investors or people who wants to work with us, potential key hires, they can text investor at 917-451-5515. And they can also connect with me on LinkedIn, but a little more difficult to connect on LinkedIn.
Gotcha. All right, cool, man. Yeah. Well, to everybody tuning in, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.